Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a disassembly for you of this very interesting knife here. This is the Holt Bladeworks Specter off of Holt Bladeworks, the Holts. This is a neat knife in a lot of ways, and one thing that's interesting about it is the detent. Oh yeah, it's got this deliciously clicky detent. It's actually kind of unique. I feel like I haven't felt a detent like this elsewhere, and so I'm really impressed by it, and I can't wait to get this guy open and see how it works. Looks like we might be dealing with a T15 pivot there, which I will never argue with. A nice, deep, big fastener is always good. Yep, that's T15. Although it is a free spinning pivot. Oh, demerit. But whatever. Luckily, I have a second T15 bit around. This is why it's always a good idea to have a backup tool. If you want to check this one that I'm using, I have a knife disassembly toolkit video. I feel like a lot of Loctite was used. I felt it cracking in a way that was not necessarily great. We'll pop it open and see. Yep, like I said, a lot of Loctite. But that's okay, whatever. But I'm looking forward to getting this guy open to see how that pivot actually works. Then this looks like it could be T8 or maybe T10. That's T8. Okay, so T8 and T15. At least it's not T6. T8. All right. Beautiful. And let's go ahead and pop this guy the rest of the way open. I haven't done anything to this knife. I actually literally got this knife yesterday. And so, I flipped it about a bazillion times now because the action is really addictive. But, okay. So this is interesting. Because the clip is mounted in, okay, this same Chicago screw. So that's what's freaking me out, guys. I take this guy out, and then suddenly the clip is loose. Like, what the heck? But no, this screw is what holds the clip in position via this long Chicago screw. And then it's aligned by being sitting into that gap there. Okay, and we're disassembled. Beautiful. So, there we go. Let's go ahead and pop this guy loose. Oh, cool. Look at that. Okay. So, the knife has disassembled itself in my hands here. This is neat. Look at this freaking detent, guys. Immediately, and we got parts everywhere, but that's okay. Wow, that's a thick pivot. Alrighty, back at the ranch. Look at the detent on this guy. Unlike most knives, which have a detent ball, there is a little tiny ball that's mounted inside of this lock bar here. This has a milled out area here, and so actually what's going on here is that the detent sits inside this little, it's not even a hole, it's a cutout, like a little milled in section here. And so that must be what's causing this detent to be as excellent as it is. I can't claim to entirely understand it, but it is really neat. And as long as the hardness of this metal is dialed in properly, then great. It works well. You've also got yourself a nice over-travel stop here, which I can't argue with. You can see lots and lots of internal milling, including on the lock bar. And one other neat trick here is that you can see there's no external lock bar relief cutout. On a lot of knives, here we go. On a lot of knives, there's an external cutout that thins this lock bar down in order for it to be able to flex properly. This guy has all that cutting out done internally, so that's neat. On this side, you can see a whole bunch of internal milling that is beautifully done. I mean that not in the sense of like it's nice machining, but in the sense that they've spent a lot of time making this an attractive pattern. The inside of this knife is about as attractive as the outside of this knife. And that's something I always appreciate. You can see they've done a little bit of printing here. Holt Bladeworks Specter refined. It's about the only damn thing that's refined in my life. Anyways, beside the point. And then everything else on here, the stop pin is mounted permanently, so it's not going to come flying out. Pull a Kaiser, then internal stop pin track, nice and wide. Steel washers on top of the titanium. Ceramic bearings. There's no ceramic detent ball because there's no detent ball because, whoa. This is actually remarkably well done. I'm looking at this as a guy who takes apart a lot of knives. I'm impressed. They've done a lot of nice stuff here. And in fact, there are only a couple of little things that I object to on this knife. One of which, and you'll be able to see it better here than ever anywhere else, is the sharpness of this little area right up top here. This is something that needs a chamfer very badly. I know it wouldn't match this little contour when closed quite as well, but at the same time, you know, there are a couple of little hot spots on this guy, but in terms of mechanical action, this is really refined. No, it's clear that they've spent a lot of time. Whoever designed this knife, I assume the Holts, spent a lot of time thinking about various aspects of this. It feels, in a lot of ways, and a very common comparison in the community for this guy, is it feels Norseman-like. And I mean that in a few ways. Or, I'm sorry, Grimsmo-like. The Grimsmo brothers, John and Eric, the makers of the Rask and the Norseman, have a similar approach. They're a small business working out of, well, used to be their garage. Now they've kind of hit big. But, and they got to where they are by making things really beautifully, and by thinking things through. And I feel like they're trying to do the same approach here, and that's great. Internally, though, there are some differences against the Grimsmos. This detent system is very different than the Grimsmos. They're using an internal, they're using the stop pin that's mounted in the blade and then moves in this track, whereas the Grimsmos have that 2-pin system, which is... well, I mean, they've got a nice video explaining why they do that, but, you know, it works. And so I'm trying to pop that little washer out of here. Come on. Come loose. There we go. Just so I can get in there and clean a little bit. But, yeah, so I am impressed, though. This feels very, very nice, and it's a nice size. This is sort of a... yeah, this is a really nice little high-end piece that's actually, yeah. This is also flirting with my boundaries for custom knife. This is a knife that was made to my specifications, even though every other Specter looks the same. This isn't a flavor of custom as I just spray rubbing alcohol everywhere. This is a flavor of custom I find super compelling, because the knife is customized to me, to my desires, to my request, yet at the same time, it is just like every other Specter in terms of the overall design, etc. The differences are mostly cosmetic. And what this means is that the knife is going to be, you know, serviceable and whatnot. It's not like it's just a one-off thing with one-off issues. And yet at the same time, it is to my liking. And so I like that. I think that's a really nice model. And it sort of gets at the best of the custom world, which is something that's made to your desires, while avoiding the worst of the custom world, which is that this is something that's only been made once, so every knife has freshman problems. Now, hold on, I know. It is not the case that really good custom makers operate in that way. The reason that you pay huge money for a Stan Wilson or something like that is that these are people with sufficient skill and knowledge about the knife building sort of scene that they are able to make a one-off knife that is beautifully done. And each time you're going to have excellence. And so, you know, I'm not saying that custom is equivalent to having freshman problems. No. I'm just saying that very often, especially from new custom makers, that can be the case. Wow, this is a lot of thread locker here. I'm trying to crack this off of here, and there we go. All right. So somebody just gave this a crap ton of Loctite, and even to the extent where it got too deep into there, I'm hoping that doesn't actually affect the action, having removed that, because that acts as a little bit of a spacer. Probably just means I'll need to tighten the pivot down a little bit further than it was, but okay, whatever. All right, washes are clean, knife is taken apart. Everything looks really nice in here, so let's go ahead and start rebuilding everything. We have the technology. The technology that we will be using for this is two things. 10-weight nano oil. This is a little pen applicator. Keeps me from using too much of it, or at least makes me use too much of it in small areas. And then we will be using a bit of blue Loctite on a stick. And part of the reason I like this stick is that it prevents me from doing what happened there with the drowning the thing in Loctite. So let's go ahead and drop on some oil on the washer here. You know, I'm impressed here. I really, really am. I don't know how long it took Joe and Angie, the folks making this. The reason I know them by name, by the way, is that they're very communicative. In the process of doing all this, it was very much like I heard from them individually. It was a very personalized process, which is great itself. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do that. But I don't know how long it took him to design this to get to the point where it was, you know, ready to go. But you can tell they've done a lot of thinking here, and that's great. I seem to have a fetish for well thought out tools. Like if somebody has spent, you know, weeks, months, years of their lives thinking about how something can work optimally, I'm probably going to like it. Because I would do the same thing if I were designing a knife and had the skills to design a knife. Okay, so we now have everything lubricated. We have everything back in that position. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this in here. This is the clip. This goes here, and this provides one point of control for the lock bar, for the backspacer, that is. Let that drop into position. This other screw here goes here. Beautiful. One other thing to note is they've put the serial number, which is exceptionally long and appears to be hexadecimal, in the meaning it's using letters as well as numbers to express a greater amount of information with a given character, whatever. As well as the knife number, the 81, on there as well. So if you ever end up with number 81, Nick Shabazz owned it. Shabazz may hold on to it. We'll see. But yeah, so there you go. And then actually I'm going to put a little just drop on there and on here. Why not, right? Okay, so we have a backspacer in position. We have only 3 screws remaining. So let's put this back together. And actually, I'm going to wipe this outside portion off as well. Just because, why not? But I really did have an exceptionally good experience customer service-wise with these folks, and I've heard the same thing from everybody. So it's not just the case, I don't think, that they were treating me nicely because I am a jackass who's reaching some prominence in the knife community. That's always something I'm suspicious of, but a lot of people recommended this knife to me, like I am the second or third batch that these folks have made, and recommended it to me on the strength of that customer service. And no doubt I may have gotten a little bit more of a song and dance number. Who knows? But from what I've heard, my experience is typical, which is nice. But yeah, really, really impressed so far. Certainly there were a couple of issues here and there, but for the most part, they've done a remarkable job here. And these folks may end up being another small manufacturing success story along the lines of Koenig, along the lines of the Grimsmos, along the lines otherwise. And in some ways, that's what I want to do, what I want to bring to the channel most. Come on. There we go. This is really kind of fighting me here. Oh, that's because there's previous thread locker in there that's bothering me. All right, let me clean some of that out of there. Yeah, they really doused that. That's nuts. And this did come to me directly from the maker, by the way, so it's not the case that the last jackass did it. Well, technically it is, but the last jackass, we know who that was. All right. Yeah, and indeed, I'm seeing the threads are coming out just caked with solid thread locker. Look, I get it. I think I've done it in videos before where you think you're popping, you think you're putting in the right amount, and then suddenly you just like, and then suddenly you've got, you know, half a gallon of Loctite on there. It's part of the reason I switched to this stick-based stuff. Makes it much harder to accidentally flood a knife. Alrighty, and we are back to free spinning pivot. This is one of the areas that they have not yet fully thought through, but they will hopefully work on that for the future. Okay. Oh, yeah. I feel like that's a little tight. Let's dial it back a tid. God, that the 10th. It's not the same degree of drop shutitude yet as the Grimsmo version. Just making sure it's not hitting inside there. Shouldn't be. Nope. But it has a really nice thwack when it shuts. think we are. Whoop, there we go. Slipped off the back there. Beautiful. God, the tent sounds great. Yeah. All right, we're good to go. Everything's put back together. This is just nicely done. I'm going to be spoiling my review here at some level, but this is well freaking impressive to me. Alrighty, so there you go. Hope this has been interesting, that you enjoyed my playing my role as inspector of this Spectre, and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.